Hello, and thank you for joining me today. So, I read chapter 5 um, in a book called Discussing Your Feelings. And chapter 5 is called Have Your Feelings or They Will Have You. Let me start by saying, feelings do matter. Feelings are very powerful, and feelings are part of what makes any relationship a good and positive relationship. The potential costs that we have sometimes that we feel when it comes to sharing our feelings can sometimes be too big, and we feel that there's a gamble in sharing them. But the fact remains that we must share our feelings when we're having these difficult conversations. And the problem is with sharing if we don't share our feelings can sometimes leak into the conversation without us being aware of it. We can have conversations in which we are frustrated or upset, and it can come out. The other issue is that sometimes our feelings can burst into the conversation without us planning on it. Sometimes we don't share our feelings and we feel like we're not being emotional all the time because we just choose not to share our feeling, or because we share our feelings too often. But it can also be on the other side that because we share our feelings so rarely, that's why we're not emotional. But what happens is when we hold those in, when we keep those emotions in, it can be like a shaken up can of pop that just opens up. But the other problem is when we do not express our feelings, it can make it very difficult to listen to others. When we're having a hard time sharing our emotions, it's hard to listen. Because a lot of times when we're having these conversations and we've got these emotions inside of us, we tend to be constantly thinking about how we're feeling as opposed to listening to how others are feeling. So one big thing for us to do is to find our feelings, to figure out what are our feelings, how do we truly feel about a situation. That's the first step. Once we finally can realize how we're feeling and how our feelings are affecting the conversation, we can accept our feelings. And then when we accept our feelings, we accept that this is a situation that is hurting us, we can then in turn recognize these feelings and how these feelings are affecting our conversations with others. If I'm upset with somebody, I will tend to, in turn, speak to them with that same frustration and that same anger. But then the great part about that is once we find our feelings, accept them, and recognize them, we can now learn from them, and we can learn how to better express ourselves. Which brings me to expressing our feelings. Expressing our feelings can be a difficult one. But the key is to start off by not judging. It's easy to say, I think you're being you can say, I'm upset because you're being rude or because you're being disrespectful. But what that does is that turns into judging someone else as opposed to just expressing how we feel. That's why the biggest thing we need to do is let people know when we're talking, hey, I am feeling hurt because of X, Y, or Z. Or because, like if there's two parents and one argues with them in front of the kids. You can say, because you question my parenting in front of our kids, I feel like you do not trust me in the parenting of our children. The key is to express that I feel statement. And then once you can accept your feelings and you can figure out how to best address your feelings and express how you feel, you can then in turn acknowledge how someone else feels. When we take the time to determine our feelings, we can ensure that we have control over the feelings and that they do not control us. Much like the title says, have your feelings or they will have you. If you do not acknowledge your feelings, find your feelings, and know how your feelings are affecting you, they will drive everything you do. Thank you.